Hello, and welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist, and tonight I have some very special guests. As always, guys.
Well, hello, I'm Adam. I'm with the Real Point Exchange. Guest starring once again over here. We're dealing with a creepypasta that involves being out in the woods away from civilization. So why not get somebody with an Appalachian accent? Just a class to join up.
Does that mean I need to talk with my accent too? I can if that wants to classy it up.
Well, what's that about, eh?
I'm Travis. I'm introductions first, jokes later. Travis Gaskew, podcast mercenary. I'm a PhD student at Georgia Tech. I study interactive narrative, storytelling, and science fiction, focusing on weird and horrific science fiction mediums.
Excellent. This is why I bring people here.
I have a funny story about how I actually was able to explain a professor an issue with interactive narrative game using tabletop yesterday. I will share later.
Awesome. Yes, so we are continuing and probably concluding our state and / province creepypasta series of shows with Ontario, my home province. And we are doing the story, A Campfire Story, by Vital Duel or Drew McDougall on the NoSleep, Reddit NoSleep. So just as a quick rundown for it, basically this narrator is a camp counselor for overnight camps in Muskoka, or in the Muskokas. He loves doing it, but then there's this one time when he was on an overnight trip in Algonquin Park, which for non-Canadians is basically a giant national park that is in the middle of the province. And he had about 6 kids with an extra counselor with him, and they were basically just on the lakes. And then, like, during the day, they would play around and hang out on the lakes, and then at night they would be around a campfire and telling scary stories with s'mores. And so he'd tell all manner of scary stories to the kids, and then they all basically went to bed except for the counselor. And he was basically just enjoying the night when he noticed some lights on the top of the cliffs on the other side of the lake that they were on. And his heart heart stopped for a second, and he went and grabbed his digital camera and went to zoom in and check to see, count these lights that are up on the cliff, and then count it again, and then immediately recognized what they were and ran to the other campers and woke them up to try and get them to move and get out of here, because he said that there's a storm coming. And after some begrudgingness, they eventually all started packing up and started heading out toward the nearest ranger site. So on the way there, he's telling them a story, which is the story of the lights, and how it was about some Native Americans migrating through this area in the time before the European settlers, and they had to cross these cliffs after a massive, unseasonable blizzard had struck the area. And so they couldn't see anything, but they had to get past these cliffs. So they used what light they had from kerosene lamps, and used that as kind of a line of lights to try and navigate so that the person behind you could see or navigate the cliffs. But the person in front was basically blind and had to kind of do it themselves. The story kind of goes the way you think. The first person falls or slips and falls, and then it just kind of creates a domino effect of other people. None of them make it past these cliffs, each one falling into the lake below, with the last one cursing the land as he falls down into the splashing tide. So ever since then, they say that the lights are there, and do they cause an issue, or in the story that he's telling, or is it just?
Well, let's go ahead and start nitpicking. Now, how the hell do we know all this stuff if the last person who was there is dead?
I have that in my notes.
This is why it's an urban legend.
Yes, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I do enjoy the story, and there is a naturalistic phenomenon that explains it. That the ghost story helps create a more appealing narrative than, hey, the Earth is doing weird things. So I was actually okay with this spooky story using to explain naturalistic phenomenon.
Yeah, no, I have that, like, in my notes. It was like, then who told the story? Like, that meant tell no tale. But then, yeah, like, you hear this all before, like, legends and ghost stories of, like, people, the person dies, and, like, so if the person died, who told that story? But, like you said, it's obviously just like, if this is an actual legend from history, it's probably just, like, an explanation for weird lights.
Yeah.
The other thing I had to nitpick, I guess if we're going to go into that, my beef here is kerosene lighting. Would that have been a thing?
So
like pre-European settlers?
That was my nitpick as well. There is technically a Native American tribe from New York area. I forgot to write them down. They didn't have kerosene particularly, but they did have a version of gasoline and oil that they gathered from seeds.
Yeah.
And that were around and used way before, and only started to be picked up as like an important transaction when the settlers came. So it is possible because they bordered up to the South Lake Ontario. It is possible this is an actual thing. It's not kerosene, but it's a good way of giving the appeal of some type of flammable liquid without being weirdly, too granular in the notion.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I guess it could have been like also like animal fats or something like that. Like some kind of like lit fuel, like other than like just lantern. And again, it's a modernization possibly, or like just an accidental modernization of the legend that the character's telling. So
to get back to that though, you're right. It just seems like after they tell the story, there's no other connection to like, oh, here, kids, here's your ghost story, and then
we get the drop after when they get to the ranger site. There's a bunch of people there because they're trying to get the hell out of Dodge because there is actually a storm coming, and it's like tornado weather. So yeah, they're trying to get everybody evacuated out of the park to get to safer shelters. And so they're on the truck ride back to probably the portage station in the middle of, or like near that, in the nearest the highway that goes through Algonquin. When the counselor that's with our narrator whispers to him, like, how did you know that there's going to be a storm? Like, how do you know that? And like he says, well, I saw the lights. And she's like, no, you didn't, because she recognizes it. And she recognized the legend that he was telling, but he neglected to say, he left out a piece of information from the story to the kids as they're like sleeping in the truck next to them. The thing is, the lights show up, and it's one light. Whenever the lights show up, they're usually a message or a warning, and it's one light for every person that's about to die. And there were 8 lights there, and there were 8 people at that campsite, 2 counselors and 6 kids. So that's kind of where the dread of the story kind of ends. It's like,
how do we know the people telling the story didn't die, and this is a ghost story? Inception.
I don't know if you guys saw the comments for this one, but somebody like brought that up. It's like, oh, it's a story within a story within a story. Storyception.
Wow. Well, it does remind me of like one of the more famous examples of a story within a story would actually be Heart of Darkness by Conrad. Like, I don't know if you've ever had to read that one, but it's like,
I've not.
it as a guy on a party boat or a yacht or at a party or something in general, telling a story that was told to him of an occurrence that happened in colonial Africa, and so it goes through that filter. Like 2-3 times.
The other way to view the Joseph Conrad story is if you've ever seen Apocalypse Now, as you are watching a story of somebody going through Vietnam and hearing his experience of what he did in a fever dream.
Right.
Because that's the direct inspiration for Apocalypse Now is Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They're even looking for Conrad. But that's neither here nor there. I'm saying that a lot. First, let's start with the top because I got a bone to pick right here in the beginning.
Okay.
All right. So let me
English teacher, go.
Oh, well, this is a very beautifully written, like, I have no complaints English, but like, this is more just content. For a number, like, I'm going to start at the very top paragraph. I'm going to tell you my opinion afterwards. For a number of years, I was a camp counselor at an overnight camp, and I almost said the Muskogees, but it's not.
It's fine.
I loved it for more than any job I've ever had. Okay, this is where I get some dissonance. Despite the non-existent pay, annoying campers, long days and short nights, crappy food. For one, I got to tell as many scary stories as I could sputter out. This guy just sounds like a bastard. Like, he is an asshole who doesn't like anything and just likes to go out into the woods just to torment a bunch of young children with scary ghost stories. Now, he's, under this veneer of being a professional dog, he just seems like a curmudgeon. You know what I mean?
I mean, I kind of got that as like just him being sarcastic about the
yeah.
It's just if you take it that way, I guess it's just like he's like my only love of life is just scaring the hell out of children,
pulling the wings off of a fly.
Deftone starts playing in the background. We start reading the story.
Yeah, it does feel like we're getting a little bit of a whiplash from like just like the tone. Like he's like, oh yeah, I love camping, except for this and this.
Except for camping.
This and this. But I like this. Like, yeah. I also got like one of my thing at the top, or so like they're explaining like the Muskokas in Algonquin Park. So my background for this is actually really, again, I kind of chose this as like, oh, I recognize Algonquin Park on here, and like I did a quick read through before I chose this. But then as I was reading, I was like, man, I was getting flashbacks to like when I used to portage in Algonquin Park and like go camping out in Algonquin Park. Because like there are like cliffs that you can. I don't think you can really jump off of them. I mean, I'm sure there's some lakes that you can.
No, you can jump off of them.
I mean, you can
once.
I can jump off this cliff once. But
all cliffs are jump offable. It's just if there's multiple jumps in them.
Yeah,
and
but there are actually
on you.
Yeah,
unless you want to be a little bitch about it, then yeah.
I mean, like one of my biggest memories was like similar kind of cliffs, but like they're on a slight angle, like they're basically like a slope, like a rocky slope. And if you like take your life jacket or like some kind of like some kind of buffer and you sit on that, and they make for great slides. Like just 100 feet or like about maybe like a couple of dozen feet in the air, or like a couple of dozen feet above the water, and you can just slide down into the water. So again, I was kind of reliving a little bit of childhood memories of like camping out in the Algonquin Park.
Yeah.
With this story. So he's talking about like what kind of stories he'd tell kids here, like with like the stalker in the woods with the face so horrifying that paralyzes all its victims with fear, or the group of campers who decided to spend the night across the lake from a abandoned, or was it, insane asylum.
Yeah,
I don't think there's an insane asylum in Algonquin Park as far as I could find. But I know there's the ruins of a century-old hotel out there. It's called the Highland Inn. Mm-hmm. And that, again, like reading this, it brought back a memory of like when we were camping out there, and we were told that like about the Highland Inn, and like how the way we had been told it was like had burned down, but I think it just had been abandoned and then like been reclaimed by nature. But yeah, it's like that kind of stuff. It helps to almost kind of ground it into this, into like for people in the know of Algonquin. It does, like these kind of stories are told there, kind of help to again further my nostalgia for camping.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look for Algonquin Park, ruins, there's so many good little images. I should, if I ever do the summer camp again, I might just steal images from this place.
Go for it. I will actually say one of my first ever ideas for running in like a horror scenario was based off of my trips in Algonquin Park. So, never got off the ground, but it was kind of the stepping stone into my career as a GM. One thing I will bring up from the story, just quickly. So there's a part where it's like when he's talking in the legend, and the clothes they had on them were made for the fall, not this sort of weather, and there weren't any Canada Goose jackets around back then. So just as a quick aside, Canada Goose is actually a Toronto-based cold weather clothing company. Okay. Just for context on that, you have to Google it if you want to know like what he's talking about with Canada Goose jackets.
Yeah.
But just as a context thing for our commentary here.
So as per usual, I always will need an editor because I can't write for shit. So I don't care about content, or I usually just care about content. And like you've hit some good points, but grammar and stuff goes over my head like a good goose down honking Canadian geese.
Jesus.
I don't know where that was going.
So
fair.
So we jump in to buy the books, a little bit of an introduction, then setting the stage where you were talking about the insane asylum and telling the stories. Then, it goes into the section where he's discussing the 6 kids were in bed, partial moon reflected. He was thinking about cliff jumping, which I do want to mention this because I have been cliff jumping.
Yeah.
And I only went one time, but it's not because I died. It's because I broke my tailbone. But I mean, it was a death of sorts.
Yeah.
I feel like I nearly drowned.
I mean, considering this guy's only fun is scaring people, he might actually have a condition where he needs to have fear to survive.
Yeah.
He might actually be like the Scarecrow, and like this is the only way to survive is jumping off larger and larger cliffs until he can't jump again.
It is a thing that you do in Algonquin Park, though. Although I recommend scouting the water beforehand because a lot of those lakes are like pine needle lakes, so they're really black, and there's a lot of trees down there. Like there's like a lot of those lakes, have like large stumps and like protruding trees that used to like be like where I guess where the water like used to not be there, and now it's raised up, kind of like the Kentucky thing where we had
mangroves.
Like I remember going like to one of the islands in one of the lakes we were at and looking down from the cliff side of that and looking down into the water and just seeing this like octopoidal like display out in the water because this tree had the roots of this tree had been close enough to the surface of the water that you could see it through the blackish water, and it was just this like tendrils going out, like blossoming out. And I was just
there's your creepypasta story you need to write right there.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like tree roots, and then it snags up your dog.
Exactly. It's the Shub Niggurath tie-in creepypasta.
This is all me, and I can honestly look at this now that we've made it to the ending and go back. Like when he was talking about cliff diving, I don't think he was trying to kill.
No,
I held it like suspect. It just seems like, and where I'd read him as being a bastard in the beginning, I just kind of like, well, maybe we could do some cliff jumping. I grinned. The camp director would have my head if we did that. If you found it. Like it just seemed kind of like I was like, this guy's an asshole still. But and then we get the orbs. I thought, I was very interested that it says that. After he zoomed in, he counted them, and then he counted them again, and then oh shit. So I liked that little tease that they did there. I thought that was really nice. Like, I mean, obviously we're going to get in a well-written story, we would find out why he counted them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just want to compliment that. That was a nice little structural hook, if you will. Yeah.
It actually kind of ties into something like one of my comments for the story is, like we said earlier, it's like a story within a story within a story kind of thing. I really liked that way that the story is told. Like it's in increments from the narrator while playing out the events of the trip. So like we get like the camping trip, and then there's a catalyst to another story that he's going to tell, but he's not going to tell it all the like way through. He's going to save parts of it for like the drop at the end. I just like really like how like there was like those stepping stones or building blocks to like a deeper story than just a camping trip where something weird happens.
Yeah.
Another thing, also like the where like when they get to the ranger station, and then the big burly ranger tells them that like, didn't you hear another gust of wind? Huge storm systems heading right for us. Already been tornadoes touched down. We're getting everyone out here. Let's go. Yeah. Oof. That would be terrifying in and of itself. Like just that standalone, like having tornadoes weather in amidst all of those pine forests and like open lake areas. Like, ugh.
Which, for those of you who are not familiar with like how pine trees work, I mean, they're not as sturdy, like heavy, mighty oak kind of wood. They grow fast, they break easy, and sometimes it's actually to their survival too that they can weather some winds that more robust trees would, fight against and break. But like, yeah, I can imagine a tornado going through a pine forest. It would just devastate everything.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that they're also they grow in the area that they're growing in, which is around Algonquin. It's the Canadian Shield, so there's not a lot of topsoil. There's like just enough for the trees and forest.
Yeah,
but not enough to like if a good like a tornado gust comes in, it's going to like tear down those trees like toothpicks.
Yeah.
It's probably why a lot of those lakes have so many trees and like logs at the bottom of them.
I think this is one of the sections that we could have elaborated on. Like, whenever we get the straight narration of this story, I would have really appreciated it a bit more if, paragraph of it, boom, cut to present time, wind whistling through the trees. Just give me an update of what's going on, and if I feel like it could have made some more tension there, because once we get to the flashback narration of like that story,
Yeah,
that's all we get, and while it's spooky and while it ties in nicely at the tail end of it, I feel like it was just a missed opportunity that they didn't add more, because like I have been camping a lot and I was a Boy Scout till they kicked me out, but that's a different story that we'll save for another day. But when you're in the woods and the wind's picking up, and then the branches above you are creaking, and it's a genuine risk that if you're out in that kind of weather, something could break and fall on you. It's very legitimate, and they could have added that in there, and it just would have been a little nicer.
Like maybe like have like him looking like break through the narration of the story for a second, and then like show him like looking up in the trees, like seeing them wave around like maybe like spears or something like that, because again, pine trees are also shaped in a way that like you can get impaled by them if they fall in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least like the top ends of them break off. Like that's basically like a stabbing hazard or a piercing hazard.
They look like teeth, and like if they're moving around, man, just imagine like the grinding teeth of a gigantic beast that you're into would have been a nice bit of color.
Exactly. Yeah. Travis, do you have anything?
I grew up in pine forests. Like,
okay,
Savannah it's old oaks, it's pine trees, and it's stuff like that. Like all you're talking about is like, yep, this is true. Like again, we didn't even have a tornado touchdown. We had a tornado growing up that touched down in the swamp behind us just long enough to whirl around, and 5 trees fell down, and it was like a full 6 seconds of it actually touching. So these things pop and go, and just like if you're right with the sawing motions, like walking through on a good windy night, like the leaves rustle, but you can see these jagged teeth like clawing and sawing on each other, and then it combines with the older woods that creak and moan in the wind. Like it can be real spooky, and you can definitely design for some atmosphere. I'm trying to figure out how the best to do this, because we're starting to find the issue of like part of the issue with this story is that the guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's divided into 3, and like there has to be a way to structure this that the assholishness, like it's supposed to be he's an asshole with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
But like there needs to be a way to layer that. Like as
Mhm.
he's talking about scaring kids, he if this was a longer one, which I was kind of expecting, it still sits about 9 minutes for the YouTube video. If
Yeah.
it was longer, like wrap the story of the lights into what's going on here. Of like instead of him seeing the lights later, like, oh, my favorite story to scare the kids about is with these guiding lights on the cliffside, and there's signs of a big storm, and like that was a perfect time to say it. Talk about the trees on the ground, and as the storm's picking up, he's talking about these spooky lights that show up when terrible things happen, and then like at the climax of the story, look over and see the lights, shit his pants, and run away. They've kind of created this 3 humps for the story instead of building it into a 5-act big structured story. And we're kind of, by picking it apart, we're finding this issue, but this is also an issue with creepypastas of like, sometimes they're not designed to be good stories. They're designed to be consumable, quick spookums that don't have to have the proper form, function, and structure, because that makes them better.
Yeah, that's kind of like
stories.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of like internet short fiction is like, because like we got creepypastas, but then there's the shorter ones which are like micropastas, which are like a paragraph long, and they're just supposed to be like you said, like they're designed to basically just like deliver the spook and that's it. And this one I don't think is like that, but it's definitely like it suffers a little bit from its the short format it uses. Oh God.
Sorry. Reflective eyes on this tree on the side of the road, you find, sir, are an asshole. A genius, but an asshole nonetheless.
I might have to put that in the description below to let our audience see what that is. Yeah, the other thing is, so going back to like the weather and stuff like that, it's like, again, like as soon as they started talking about the tornadoes and stuff, I was immediately brought back again, another flashback to my youth in camping. We did get stuck out there in a storm once. And that was pretty harrowing, canoeing across the largest lake that we had to cross at all, while there's a lightning storm approaching us very quickly, and we're desperately trying to get across an open lake to the portage site, like to like the main headquarters. So yeah, this hit a lot of bells thematically for me for like familiarity. Also, another thing with regards to the guy like being an asshole, is he not so much an asshole as just a Chad, or like just like a jock, like kind of, or not a jock, but like one of those kind of like, just kind of like you said, like a kind of a
like alpha.
Yeah, kind of an alpha, or like just.
Well, we just learned at the end that his co-counselor is Laura.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I know you could have co-ed, and it would make sense that you would have co-ed if you had female and male, campers going along with you too and stuff like that. I just, at some point, I wondered if it wasn't just somebody trying to posture for, trying to impress Laura. But the story never mentions that. It's just, I mean, it was a side note, and it was all me just kind of trying to look for something that wasn't there. Yeah, I think overall, though, what you're getting at is very important, that our narrator is not a fleshed out person.
Yeah. Yeah, like the story definitely seems to be like its main goal is to deliver us that zinger of like the lights and what they mean and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they kind of suffers in developing like any like kind of true like character development outside of, he's kind of an outdoorsy macho kind of guy in certain ways.
He's a bro.
That's what I've been trying to think of. The bro. Yeah, that's what I've been trying to figure out. But he's a bro that's also like got the kids' like best intentions in mind at the end of the day. Like he is concerned for their well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, he could have been. Well, he wouldn't be doing what he did in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just builds up to one big jab. Like you just got a few like little light punches, and then there's a haymaker. I guess what I'm trying to say. Honestly, like if we go forward with this, you got the scene where they're all in the truck bed driving away and stuff like that. And what do you think of it, about the fact that he? I don't know. Maybe you may have to edit all this out. I have no idea what I'm trying to say. I
Okay.
just thought it was like the discussion between Laura and him in general about him like relaying 8 lights and stuff like that. Uh, like, don't you believe that this would have been another great opportunity for Laura to be like, "What did you see? What did you see?" After, throughout the course of the trek there.
Oh,
feel
okay,
like
I gotcha. Yeah, like
I feel
again,
like there's a
adding
lot
in
of
more.
show me opportunities.
Yeah, like add a little bit more, like splice up that story to like kind of build up the atmosphere and tension even further. Like ask her, like, because she was initially like pissed off at him for getting them all out and like on like just a whim of like, oh, there's some clouds brewing, it's probably going to be a storm, so let's go. But like that's about they only just like, all right, they begrudgingly like get their tents and stuff going, or unpacked and head out. So but yeah, like we don't get any kind of like build up to like after that. Like there's just she's angry at him and concerned, and then they're at the ranger station, and like it's been revealed that there is actually a storm, and then she's questioning him. But like there should have been some kind of thing in between, right?
Yeah, totally. Just to at least flesh her out. I mean, she wakes up mad.
Yeah.
Well, if she's a professional and knows the area and stuff like that, it should be more of a concern thing there. I like how, I mean, I don't like, but it's just, she's like, well, we're stuck out here. What are we going to do? We're just going to get wet and stuff like that. Like, that doesn't seem like kind of a professional response when you're, chaperoning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when it's hours into a vast wilderness. Like you should know have a little bit more on the know of like what to do and stuff.
Yeah.
Not just like rely on your other counselor to know all the stuff.
Yeah, and it all just kind of just builds up our main character, obviously.
Mhm.
But so yeah, I had to like meander through my thoughts there. So if all that makes
fine.
it, you could just like, you listeners at home understand how my thought processes work. I just start making noise until I can tie it back together.
Listen, we treat this as a discussion course, like
Yeah.
here at school. The number of meandering thoughts that I have heard in the last month and a half that have actually led to decent points is actually astronomical. So I think meandering thoughts are really useful, and you've hit the point. Is like, I like to, when I design stories and horror, like the rule of 3 from comedy is also really useful in horror.
Yeah.
Because comedy requires a punchline. Horror sometimes tells you a punchline you didn't know or doesn't have a punchline. So like the rule of 3s, we have a 3-act structure, but like splicing in, what do you see? We gotta go. Finally settling down, what do you see? I can't talk, I'm too nervous. And then what did you see? Boom, done. Or like he mentioned seeing the lights, checking again, and then saying it later. Like that's technically 3s, but it's 2 quicks and then 1 long. So like this could be structured in a better way to draw out that tension. It's just you'd have to massage the story a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Also, with regards to like the meandering, this is a discussion podcast, so
Yeah.
like
true.
kind of just mirroring Travis. Like that's kind of the point of our show.
Okay. I just get self-conscious.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
So, do we have anything else to add on this, or are you all about ready to go over to the application portion of this?
I'm always ready for
Yeah,
application.
I was thinking the application's probably better. I do have one grammar inquisition actually in my notes. Just one. Give me a second. Gotta pull it up. So here's the quote that seemed to get them going, and within 10 minutes the tents were packed up, and we'd begun our trek into the deep woods. Is it supposed to be we began our trek into the deep woods? Is that better?
I mean, I'm trying to find the exact passage here.
It's basically as he shouts no to the campers as they're groaning and stuff.
It depends
Okay.
on what the conjunction is, because it's we had, we should, or we would.
Yeah,
So
it's like
we had began our journey would work. If they
gotcha.
weed.
Or we had begun our. This is like we had begun our trek. Into the
Yeah.
Woods.
Yeah,
is what
so
it
you're
says, like,
you're getting into a tense issue there.
yeah. Sorry, tense issues are always an issue with me because like so many creep buses break tense.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a 4-story, so tense being an issue is kind of important.
I walked into
Ba-doom.
that.
Thank you.
Gamer in
I think-
Yellow? Sorry.
I would have preferred began our trek.
Yeah. Okay. That's Grammar Inquisitioned over. I had to bring that one up. Our quota has been met for the day. All right. So yeah, on to the kitchen or application section of our podcast.
Yeah.
See how like with this one, I honestly like it. Little Fears, Fear itself, kind of like horror scenario where you're just campers out in the woods and you encounter the lights. Like, that's kind of like my staple is just to kind of go with that because like maybe play it from the kids' point of view because with the Little Fears game, you've got fear checks going with every ghost story that the guy tells. And that just kind of amplifies the terror presence in the area.
So I think a good way to start, is stepping back to the idea of the will-o-wisp and the guiding lights that we've talked about here, and the multiple types that are also dependent on cultural perspective. So it sounds like, and this could be wrong, but they give I differentiate them between guiding lights, will-o-wisps, and like spook lights.
Yeah.
So, like, guiding lights are what we see here, which is a beneficial interaction. Will-o-wisps are typically mischievous or negative, and spook lights are unknowable but have a potential sociological reason for their existence, i.e., a haunted ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can form a game around that, that creates the tension of what is actually happening. Because, like, if it's a spook light up there, okay, that might be somebody that's lost, a lost camper, oh God. Or if it's the guiding lights like we have here, it's we need to leave. Or if it's a will-o-wisp, it's actually a malicious entity going out there. And if you play it from the kid's perspective, you choose which one of these stories to tell. If you play it from the adult perspective, then you have this tension of like, here's the spectrum of possibilities. You have to figure out what to do. And that spectrum creates the shadows of doubt in your decision that guide you and like cause the tensions.
Yeah, you kind of have like a clue scenario where like what exactly where you're trying to identify the nature of what's like haunting you or what's like hunting you.
Yeah, so like for instance, Savannah, Okefenokee Swamp, or Georgia has Georgia and Savannah are always haunted. We'll just get that out of the way. We talked about that already. Okefenokee Swamp has a version of this that I remember from my past. It could be bullshit because Savannah is full of bullshit horror. But the idea is that in the Okefenokee, which is one of the larger wetland areas, there is giant skeleton that walks around and haunts you. There's spook lights, but also one of the spook lights you run into is a bunch of deceased Civil War Confederate soldiers trying to get back out of the swamp. And what they do is they guide people into the swamp that are Yankees, or they guide people out of the swamp that are good Confederate people. And like that tension of you're already in a place everything wants to kill you because of the South and the swamp, and now you have to just find if like, are these good or bad is one of those stories that I remember and think is a good like fodder for this type of situation.
Well, obviously you got to wander around swamps talking about states' rights, and then they're going to get you out of there.
God.
Oh, let's not go into this conversation.
Let's not.
It's about states' rights. It's about slavery. It's about states' rights to own people.
So that's some of the American sins that we just threw out there.
Read Ghostlands. It talks all about this stuff. Keep pushing that book every time I'm on the radio.
It's fine. It's perfectly fine.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just I'm honestly just trying to gather my thoughts as well. So
I'll keep thinking about like where I would use this, and this is I know a conversation that we have had beforehand, but I don't think we've had it on your podcast. But I always wanted to make a series of games with or scenarios with monster of the week that just involve state parks, because I've always been really interested in the missing 411, and then there's the the staircase, the creepypasta stuff about
Yes.
staircases in the middle of the woods and things like that. And I just really feel like, if I were going to use this for that purpose, I would just basically make a game where you work for the, Field and Wildlife or something like that, and you're going throughout national parks, looking into like National Parks X-Files, I guess you could say. So this would be one episode of that.
So the MP files.
Or no, it's the Men in Plaid, the Forestry Defenders. Sorry, that's an inside joke from another episode we did on the show.
I do really like that idea though, because the idea of the issue I run into with like Little Fears and Fear itself is they feel very singular, and you can stitch them together, but there's an issue of like after a certain point there needs to become a point where you have to just outright murder or kill a character. Do something drastic to make the players who are used to the situation realize you're still not good enough to turn this into a fighting game. I'm looking at Crazon as I killed him once in summer camp and then killed somebody else absolutely brutally a couple of 50 sessions later to make sure that they realized they were not strong enough. Where Monster of the Week is very much like, yo, go check this out. What? Bye. And then you never get that that power progression, and the mechanics of that system never feel like they're going to be such that you can take on the situation. It's always like Scooby-Doo, run through the situation and try and survive.
Yeah. They definitely could use and this could be again, just another flavor for that Monster of the Week kind of scenario, because it's just you're going to if it's set in the Americas, it's just all right, you're going across the border to Algonquin Park in Ontario, and you have to deal. We've got reports of these multiple people have been spotting these lights.
Yeah,
we don't know what the hell they are. So kind of borrow from your idea earlier, Travis. It's we don't know if they're spook lights, will-o-wisps, or guiding lights. So you got to go out there and make sure, see if this is a malicious or benevolent force.
Mm-hmm. You could take a Delta Green approach. We don't use Phenomex enough, so an entire game.
Oh God!
So you're just filming that. But here's the kicker with that. If it's just a one shot and then you're stuck out there and you all die, that's great. But it just seems like that would be something I would want to do more of. So this would be one of those games that I try would be a difficult balancing act, but I would love to kid glove it to the fact that it's not completely lethal, so you can have subsequent follow-up stuff like that. But you've just created the thread for a Delta Green scenario that involves the program later. So you go in there and you're the bumbling canary in the well.
Yeah.
And then you survive and walk out, and then somebody goes in behind you, and it's the meat grinder.
Exactly. Yeah. If going again with Algonquin, it isn't entirely. It's not as lethal as I think the what is it in Savannah? The Okefenokee swamp, because not everything's trying to kill you in Algonquin. There's lots of deer. There's moose, bears. Yeah. But really, it's and even with the weather and stuff like that, it's. I think it would actually be kind of kids gloves to a degree, or it would be easy to have it kind of be a relatively non-lethal but still harrowing kind of adventure.
Yeah
your mention of Phenomex was to pardon the pun, phenomenal, because you just watch ghost hunters and you just watch all these really poorly done horror spooky ghost hunts and national park mystery things, and then you just set your players out to be Phenomex, and it's you set it out to be Phenomex for 3 sessions, and then as you were saying, these are just the canaries that are chirping very loud, and some poor schmuck of a cell comes back as season 2, as you're just like, we have to go check all this stuff out. Why do they keep doing this? Why do they keep doing this? Oh my god! Oh my god!
Why
And
do you
just
keep letting these guys go out there?
and it's like, well, we kind of let them go out there because they, if they die, great. If they don't, we know we got to go check it out. Oh, I hate these people. Like that really it's like that really annoying dog that actually only barks when something bad happens, but it barks constantly. So it's like, I want to get rid of you because you won't shut up, but you've actually been really useful.
God, I'm just trying to think of an appropriate cell name now for the ones that have to deal with the schmucks in Phenom X.
The headache cell.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Shit duty.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. I believe actually, I believe somebody from it's from Technical Difficulty, right? They pushed those ones.
Yeah,
Or that's the basically the shit cell, like the guys who get all the shit jobs.
yeah. I think that maybe something that Ethan was pushing out there.
Yeah, that was for Fall of Delta Green, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not on art duty, because I know art duty is
art duty is the worst duty.
What fills everyone with terror.
Yeah. What's worse than reading a book in Delta Green? Looking at art.
Art.
Yeah.
So we got our staples for modern horror. So I think a different approach would be if you broke out Deadlands and all of a sudden you're the colonial people, so to speak.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could move it forward a century or whatnot. But I think that would be really interesting if you played the original party.
Oh god. Or a second party perhaps that was looking for the first party.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be interesting, because it's basically like Search and Rescue Woods, just a couple centuries down the road, or a couple centuries back.
And it would be really nice. That would be something to tie in with a little American tragedy if you were going to say Donner Pottery.
I thought that was going to be the one you were going to choose. Oh, the Donner Party.
We tried to help them and they said no, so I guess fuck them.
Yeah, original Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Donner Party of 5. Donner Party of 5.
But, yeah, I think we keep going to these tried and true ones, which are great and all that. But I think something like that, or Hell Dogs in the Vineyard, or anything that would just go back into the area of the past. And we're really, cautious in our horror games, and this is the biggest problem I've had running Delta Green and Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that set in modern era, is I'm going to look on my phone. Well, if you're back in those periods, that's not an option. Of course, I meant to ask you this earlier, but how's cell service up there? Is that pretty much a dead zone?
Do you have a satellite phone?
Exactly. I will say, once you get at a certain point in Algonquin Park, you just turn off your phone for the weekend. It's not going to help you. Between being far away from any cell towers, I think the nearest one might be the headquarters of the Portage, which is there is a single highway that goes through Algonquin Park, through 8,000 kilometers of forest. And I think halfway through that, or not even halfway through that, down that highway, there is the Portage Station, which is basically a kind of a camping headquarters area, where everybody just goes off to the respective campsites and stuff like that from there. But yeah, aside from that, and the story says, there are cliffs that are hundreds of feet in height. And so it's rolling, basically Canadian Shield, so just rolling granite hills amidst these pockets of lake water, of lake valleys. So yeah, reception's not the greatest out in the Algonquins.
Hell, I know in Portland, we just a major highway to get from Portland to the coast goes through a state park and it's a 3-hour trip. For 2 hours of it, you don't have radio. You don't have anything. Like major bus lines take it through there, and it's just like, well, you have no cell phone reception. They'll check on us if we don't report in. That's the only safety net you got.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure like a lot of the rangers there, like in Algonquin, use like just the radio, like an old like a two-way radios and stuff. Like that's, and outside of that, and like a bonfire, like a smoke signal or a flare, like you're best just to try and like either stay put and wait for help to come, or if you know the way back, just go back.
Yeah. Wow. So my American mind, just like, I wonder how many kilometers, 8,000 kilometers there are. And for those of you at home, 8,000 kilometers is about 30 miles shy of 5,000 miles.
Yes.
Big woods.
And even in the best of times, like Canadian cell tower infrastructure is not the best. It's certainly not on par with American infrastructure, because we actually did an episode a couple of years ago where it was a story about some kids in Jersey that were like out in like a cabin, and they were like playing a cell phone game. And my fellow co-host Mikey had to look up like what the coverage was like, because he couldn't believe that like these kids could have cell phone towers, because that's how bad our coverage is compared to yours. Like in New Jersey alone, like the area that was where the story took place, their coverage was just like a thick blue like bubble compared to like where we have like where like it's like basically along the border. Is like the best coverage, and then the farther you get north, it just kind of dissipates in terms of like coverage density. So yeah,
I'm at to sell more games in Canada. It looks like
it's scary. Man. Okay, I like to continue my my statement on woods and like the north.
Mm-hmm.
The force be scary, yo.
Agreed.
Another idea I had that just kind of sprung up mainly because of the like my own personal experience with things in Algonquin is so you could also tie the lights into like maybe even kind of almost go like a Shining route with a haunted, use the haunted hotel.
Yeah.
Or like the creepy hotel, like maybe the lights like lure you out to that, and then
or you have to run to the hotel.
Oh, you had to get to you had to get there as some means of shelter, because I mean there's not much left. Like there's basically the foundations and like maybe a few standing buildings, but otherwise it's if you look at like if you go on Wikipedia and look up Highland Inn, or it is actually pretty similar to the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. So gonna pull that up so you guys can see. What cell mapper?
You can search for your network on and see how the cell phone signals work all over the world.
Oh, nice.
So if you do like AT&T, and just do that as a generalized. So like if you do T-Mobile USA, we're zoom out, you can see that T-Mobile.
Oh my God, you're setting up cell phone towers in the middle of nowhere.
Oh,
get screwed up. There you go.
Yeah, that could be one too. Yeah, just
you got to get it assembled quick enough to get a signal out, or you're jolly well fucked. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And this is super like this is a great data viz thing to just see it, because like West Virginia actually has a huge dead spot.
So I pulled up the map for Algonquin. It goes all the towers are going around Algonquin.
Yep.
They just go straight. They go right up to North Bay and go along the Ottawa River and just completely subvert Algonquin Park. Oh, no, it looks like there might be some coverage. Yeah, there's coverage at that on the south end a little bit because of the highway that goes through the south end of Algonquin.
Why does Nebraska have such shitty coverage?
Would it be like a nice modern day scenario where you just kind of try to survive to get into cell phone service?
Yeah. No, that'd be an interesting one. Yeah.
Like for say if somebody set a game up somewhere in that area about dinosaur ghosts and stuff like that.
Oh, who'd do that?
I don't know where that comes from. That's a novel idea there.
I might have to take some notes on that, sir.
Imagine this if like cell phone service, like like we have less hauntings now because cell phone service is just frying whatever like could be actively haunted and stuff like that. So you just gotta make it to that area. So it
Yeah.
lessens. I'm trying to
Okay, there
figure
is
out.
apparently a single tower out in an outlying area near Sproul Bay in God, that's a name. That's a word. Opiongo Lake Road. There, it's in the, it's at an Algonquin Outfitters, which is basically just like a small like pinprick of civilization in an otherwise 8,000-kilometer expanse of woods. And again, it's not even in like the center, not even in like the middle of of Algonquin Park. It's like again on the south end, where like that right next to that highway that goes through it. So yeah,
Yeah, enjoy. West
not a lot of
Virginia has just West Virginia, Nevada, and Ohio are all just like, hey, by the way, dead zones, and Maine.
Yeah.
So yeah, enjoy. Found a cool little thing to use for when you were like, do I have service here?
Nope.
Do you have the right service? What's your service on your phone?
Yeah, basically. Jesus, that is terrifying.
That is pretty
Do they even have 2G? Yeah, no. Just across the board, all bands, 2G, 3G, 4G. It's just basically the main highways that go around and that one that goes through Algonquin, but that's it. And if you were to Google Algonquin Park and look up the topography, you'll see it's just jagged hills.
Right.
And, like,
that goes back to what I wanted to talk about earlier about the naturalistic phenomenon.
Yes.
Speaking of topography, to also deviate back from this tangent, I've unfortunately put us back on.
Okay, the tangent police are not knocking on my door yet.
Not yet, but that is another thing to consider. Is like a lot of like we talked about the spectrum for the potentiality of these lights, like the naturalistic phenomenon that this is like essentially some type of capacitance that the lights are resulting of the electrical field bolting up and like sending off lights. Big storm. That's another aspect to consider for a game that might just be completely naturalistic, or like for instance, since we are trying to integrate non-traditional horror systems, like if you want to play a D&D game, have a topo map of the area and then just deal with this weird naturalistic phenomenon with a low magic setting. That's another very interesting way to do this, because weird phenomena that is explainable but doesn't feel like a good explanation is a thing that ties all of these loosely together. The Phenomics example, for instance, works great because it's just like, hey, by the way, Zweihander. Yeah, Zweihander works great.
I was
for that
just
example.
As soon as you said like low fantasy like D&D stuff, it's like, or I could. Zweihander does have that Roanoke setting seed in the back of the book.
Oh, cool. So yeah, but like the idea of just finding a weird just find a weird natural phenomenon that's unique to our area. Like we're spoiled in the Americas because tornadoes are supposed to be rare, except for we live in the tornado capital of the literal. Like,
yeah,
there has to be something in your area. Again, I always say localize so you can experience it and find better resources to study it. Because there has to be some type of phenomenon that you can find locally or within a certain distance, a travel distance, that you can just turn into a game and spin. And looking at topographical maps, which shows the elevation up and down, stuff like that, you can usually find some really fun places to make them. It's also kind of easy to make topo maps, auto-generate them. I'm talking a little over people's head because you can do that in a couple of auto-generated tools in Photoshop. If people are interested, shoot me an email. You'll get my contact information later. But like, you can generally set up some really fun stuff just with a layout to make a horror game. And like a couple of weird things. So again, Swamp Gas makes dancing lights, ball lightning coming from
the thunderstorm that's approaching.
The thunderstorm, and then all of a sudden you have the swamp gas and the ball lightning hitting, and you have a plasma storm just like out of nowhere. Like, what happened? Why is everything on fire? Why is it raining fire that doesn't burn but it feels cold? Like, what? Plasma. Done.
Yeah. Just Yeah, and then you're like it's basically again for like if you're using Delta Green rules, you just use the what are they called? The Jinn, the Ifrits, and don't even make them a creature. Just use that for the ball lightning for the plasma entities because that's basically what they are.
Yeah. And if you're using Call of Cthulhu, the Jinn and Ifrits are based off of the fire vampires.
Yes.
But yeah, and then like one of the best ways to make a horror game scary is, as Adam was hinting at, people that play a lot of horror games are cautious. They know what's going on, and they have meta knowledge that they can't separate themselves out from just inanely from knowing the situation, experience, in the setting.
Yeah.
Making it completely normal and making them experience the worst of the world terrifies them. So, for instance, there's the hellstorm in a certain planet. I can't remember, but essentially, it's so hot it rains shards of ice, and the wind is such that they fly almost completely vertical. So, like that is technically, in a very rare, hyper unique circumstance, something that could possibly happen. And the theater of the mind and the do whatever you want nature of tabletops, like you can create that. A microburst hits over a sand pit that shoots up the sand. A lightning bolt hits the sand particles in the air and liquefies them. And the wind and the water blow it so fast they turn into shards, and you have to run.
Yeah, now you suddenly have that razor rain from Gears of War.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if a tornado went over top of an ocean, school of sharks, and
Oh god.
Like it's a joke, but
yeah,
it works.
Yeah.
Weirder things have happened. Like the rain of frogs, I think they said was a tornado hit over a breeding pool, and it just shot pond scum and frogs everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like we laugh at Sharknado, but I mean, like, that's one step. It's one step up the ladder from, again, raining frogs. Like,
all right. So here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a little gift for you.
Okay.
I'm dropping it in here right now. Now, listeners at home, if this makes it in the final cut, I am sharing a link to a Wikipedia page about the Kentucky meat shower.
I know about this.
All right, remember this.
Do you remember that's where I live? Like,
yes.
This is my home. Like, I'm not talking like I'll drive 30 minutes in this area. I'm like, no, this is like I live in the area, like identical. So
it wasn't. I'm skimming through this. Yeah, it was like unexplained for a while, and they just thought it was, and now it's like just a bunch of vultures vomited at once, and it made it almost like a rain of meat.
Oh my god!
For those at home, I'm going to read directly from Wikipedia. The Kentucky meat shower was an incident occurring for a period of several minutes on March 3rd, 1876, where what appeared to be flakes of red meat measuring 5 by 5 centimeters or 2 by 2 inches, with at least one being 10 centimeters, fell from the sky in a 100 by 50 yard or 90 whatever area of settlement of Rankin, Bath County, Kentucky. There, you know where I am now. There exists several explanations as to how this occurred and what the meat was. The most popular being the vulture theory, in which a large group of vultures regurgitated their meals all at once in this area. And yes, some people think it was just bacteria that fell from the sky too. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, to quote Jimi Hendrix, "Please excuse me while I eat the sky." Sorry.
It's all good.
It's all about Purple Haze, guys.
I always forget about the meat shower. Like I've heard it multiple times. I just always wow. Always gets me.
And if you ever open this link, just go under anomalous weather. Because there you have 15 different ones that you can use, whatever type of horrific storytelling in the woods you want.
Yeah, so basically what we're kind of going with is like the men in plaid, kind of like forced, like using like forced of the week is what I'm kind of seeing with our rundown for this.
Yeah.
As well as because it just have like different phenomena happening in the woods, either as a result of like either tied into like a ghost story, like this one did, or like find something like something in like that's like allocated to a specific like national park or something.
Yeah.
And then again, if you want to like kind of make it don't want to go the modern route, like use actually is Haunted West like a similar thing to like Deadlands or like
you're talking about the one that Chris Spivey is working on right now?
Yeah, the one that's being kickstarted right now.
Yeah.
Or that may not be kickstarted at the point, maybe finished kickstarting as of this posting. But yeah, it's but it's a little bit more.
It's centered around people of color and their experiences.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't think it's like straight up mythos.
No.
It's just Weird West, is what they were saying, and not in the. This is a thing that I saw when I read through this. I enjoy the Weird West has this really bad characteristic of if you hear Weird West, people expect sandworms and robots and ghosts instead of just like, hey, it rained frogs yesterday. What? Yeah, go about your day. Just don't lick the frogs. They make you hallucinate. It's like, what? It's just weird.
It's kind of like basically applying weird fiction to the West or like to Western genre.
Yeah.
The problem is like
the ridiculous level of weird. It's more subtle.
The thing. Sorry. The problem I think is like the Weird West keeps getting like it just gets like latched on to the big like Deadlands kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like basically when somebody because like you said, like when somebody thinks Weird West, they think like steampunk and like ghosts or not ghosts or like Lovecraftian horror like in the Wild West. Or the movie that Will Smith was in, Wild Wild West. But yeah, sorry, going back to a campfire story. Do we have anything else to bring up for like the kitchen segment?
I think I'm kind of tapped right now on that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of any other weird systems to use. I can't think of any. I want to say fiasco, but that's a fiasco waiting to happen. So let's move on.
Okay.
Don't you boo me. You play your Monster Hunter game.
I wasn't booing at all.
The peanut gallery is over there hunting monster and booing me.
You could also run Dread in it, I guess, too. Or Slasher Flick.
Yeah.
Is other ideas.
I think so. I mean, Slasher Flick, you have your major and your minor characters and stuff like that. So
that might be a little bit more lethal.
Being the slasher would be great.
Yeah, and just make it like kids. Just have it be like a bunch of dumb like 20-year-olds going into Algonquin Park.
Yeah.
Actually, having the slasher be the environment and be the storm is a really interesting idea.
And maybe the lights are actually just a warning, basically. Like they're kind of like the catalyst. And then it's like what is it, Tucker and Dale versus Evil? Like where like the kids just kill themselves. But there's no actual like monster. It's just like they're so paranoid, so genre savvy that they end up killing themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've touched on a fair amount of fodder from this story.
Yeah.
So I guess down to the next onto the next, like the final thing. Recommendations for the story. I'm going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Although it could use some extra tuning, like we brought up earlier with the like sparsing out some more, divvying out some more like atmosphere and like tension building, like in between like that giant like just page and a half of the legend. Like break it up a little bit.
Yeah, I recommend it for I don't consume very many creepypastas, but I think what it has here is perfectly within. It's probably one of the better ones I've read. It's definitely fantastic fodder for anybody that wants storytelling and stuff like that. So I give it a thumbs up. Also, it's on YouTube, which means that it gets an even bigger thumbs up for me, so I don't have to read. Because I will listen to creepypastas looping in the background while I'm doing research at lab. and that's
Yeah.
really useful.
Yeah. Okay. And Adam?
No, I think I've said everything that I had to say earlier. I just think I think it's beautiful. I think it's great. I think for it being as short as it was very impactful, and just a little bit of elaboration to break up just a straight narration of the previous events would be it would be great. I think yeah, if you made everybody more than just two-dimensional, everything
Yeah, I
would be
mean,
great.
unfortunately, that is kind of the staple of creepypasta genre is cardboard cutouts.
Yeah,
But I do like how we've over the course of these 3 episodes that we've done of like the different states and provinces. I like how we've chosen one from each source that, or each of my staple sources. Like
Yeah.
we've done one in creepypasta.wiki, one from creepypasta.com, and now one from Reddit NoSleep. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else to be said, that is our show for today. Adam, and since we're just waiting on Travis, what do you want to promote?
Oh, well, I have this little quaint podcast called the Role Playing Exchange. We spell it all together as one word instead of two because I'm an English major and that's how we do things. You know, just being creative. But you can find us at, well, anywhere that podcasts are. I think I have got my name out there on everything that I possibly could. But yeah, our main website is www.rolepointexchange.com. We have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com / the Role Playing Exchange. And we are on Twitter at RPEXCHANGE. I don't have Instagram. I'm 39. I'm almost 40. I kind of hit my wall. You know what I mean?
It's fun, yeah. You got to choose your social media platforms.
And basically, what we do on the Role Playing Exchange is each month we have a talkie episode. Like this month in particular, you know, in October 2019, we're doing an interview for Kickstarter creator, but we usually do one talkie episode a month and post 2 actual plays. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, which, you know, we definitely would appreciate that, you'd be a swell individual. We release an extra kind of we call it Beyond the Wall Patreon, but just really us talking about current events and stupid stuff. Like we talked about Ode Hitler, if you know who Ode Hitler is. And if not, that's a genetically engineered hammerhead shark that the Nazis created to fight the Allies during World War II.
I'm sorry?
Yep. You know, if you gave me $5, I could tell you more. But like,
okay, fair enough. Yeah,
it's paywall. But you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/rolepoint exchange. I'll give you a little hint. You could just Google that. It'll tell you all the same shit. But like, you don't get my commentary.
Florida, why is it always where it's the weirdest, dumbest thing based in Florida?
What I have 2 words for you, or 3 words for you, Travis. Hold my beer.
I guess that moves on to me?
Yes.
So yeah, everybody, Travis Gaskew. I am up for whatever you guys want to talk about. You can send me an email at my school email. It's tgasque at gatech, GATECH.edu. That's my school email. I'll actually have to answer that, and it will show up. I do have a Twitter, which is at JU_MUNSTER. And I do have a website. It's getting fixed up currently, tgasque.me. If you want to find me, if you want to talk to me, send me an email. If you're interested in auto-generating topo maps, send me an email. I basically do anything that you can want on a computer. I'm slowly realizing I am the generalist of my lab that is able to do pretty much everything. So if you're interested in me writing a story, telling you how to break it down, how to make some type of auto-generated computer program to make a thing, how to edit, how to, you know, design a role-playing game, stuff like that, you can reach out to me and talk. I do have a Patreon. Nobody joins it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and that's me.
All right.
Sometimes I'll have like, I'm your private dancer. Going through my head right now.
I
Name what
don't
you
know.
want and I'll help you. Just gotta be able to pay me something.
I was gonna say, Travis, like, you are the everyman, the jack of all trades.
If you give me a week, I can probably make whatever you want, as long as it's not something too complicated.
Fair enough. And as always, you can reach out to us at Al Dente Rigamortis via the comment section, wherever this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're also on iTunes and other podcasting platforms. So help us, let us know via reviews and ratings. Help us spread like a virus. You can also get a hold of me on Twitter at ReviewCultist, and you can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas from your states or provinces that you'd like us to discuss on the show. And if you'd like to help support our show, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigamortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, extra episodes, early access to episodes ahead of when they get posted. To our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. And to the listeners of this show and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without you guys, we really wouldn't have much of a show. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
And I'm Adam.
I'm Travis.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.
That's how Travis just kicked that accent back up ever since I did that.
It's Rebecca can mention this. It's like if I'm on the phone or I'm talking south, my accent creeps up larger and larger and larger until I'm full on. Y'all, how you doing? Good job. Let's go get some corn and cracklings.
Let's go have some crawdads.
Crawdads, corn crackling will be fantastic this afternoon. Praise Jesus.
Oh God.
Well, folks, I hate to leave good company, but I've got an hour to get ready before I go camping in the woods. So I'll
hey,
let
you
you
guys
know.
have better coverage than we do.
Yeah. We do. I mean, I'm taking a Prius, so it's not like I'm going off road to get to my campsite. But
yeah.
If I don't make it, I'll be back. Then obviously I won't ever talk to you again. So it's been great.
Wow. All right. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good